What's going on, everybody? This is Emerald Knight Leon back with another deck analysis. And today we're covering the second part of the Crossheart deck review. Yesterday I was covering more casual focused Crossheart. Today we're looking at a more competitive focused. The only stipulation here is that this is coinciding with the new restricted list that's coming out this coming Friday, where X4 and Sunrise Buster have been restricted to one card. So hopefully we can steamroll our way through this, since we've covered majority of these cards during the casual focused version. But for our Digi-Eggs, we're starting with Pikmon. Pikmon is here for our draw power, and all of our Crossheart rookies can actually Digivolve onto Pikmon because it has Crossheart in its trait. For our rookies, we're running 4 copies of Sparrowmon, 4 copies of Shoutmon, and 4 copies of Starmons. All 3 of these have on deletion save. Starmon's Inherited will let us, when attacking, draw 1 if the Digimon on top of it is Shoutmon. Sparrowmon will give Shoutmon or Mervamon reboot. And Shoutmon here will not only has an on-play for searching tamers and Digimon with Crosshearts in their traits, but his Inherited does give Shoutmons that are on top of him Rush. Now, Shoutmon in particular is very useful, especially for this deck because of that Rush. You're going to want to use him on whenever you're Digi-crossing into your single copy of X4 or your X5, so they have Rush. In the case of X5 though, you need to have Sparrowmon. That's non-negotiable. If you don't have Sparrowmon under him, you are more often than not, unless your opponent has no bodies on board and no way to get a Rush or Blitz going, then you can attack with him. Otherwise, you want to keep him unsuspended so he can maintain his blocker status. As for our level 4s, we're running 4 copies of Ballistamon, 4 copies of Darulamon, 1 copy of Shoutmon X4, and 3 copies of Shoutmon King version. Ballistamon can act as our blocker for the majority of the game as long as we have another Digimon or Tamer with Crossheart in their trait. He also has the Inherited of giving Shoutmons piercing if they are on top of him, so our X5 and X4 will always have piercing, or even Shoutmon King version, since he can Digicross with any one Digimon with Crosshearts in its traits. Now, normally you would want to use it on Shoutmon Rush, just so he can get that swing in right then and there. He dies, you get material save, and then also his on-play effect lets you return a Digimon with Digicross requirements from your trash to your hand. So, if say you used Shoutmon X4, you go in for the swing, he survives, you use his effect in order to unsuspend your Tamer, bring him back, he goes to your trash, you then use Digicross for Shoutmon King version, use his on-play effect to bring your Shoutmon X4 back into your hand for the next turn, and you can pass turn that way. As for Shoutmon X4, we've talked about him. He has material save 2, he has on-play draw 2, and his end of attack lets you essentially delete him and put all of his materials under one of your Tamers and unsuspend the Tamer. Now, an interesting little thing that I've kind of started using with my Shoutmon deck, and this is still having the 4 X4s, is I've found sometimes it was honestly in my best interest if I had no way of really giving my opponent more than 3 memory and they had a memory fixer out, I would actually have Starmons on a Pikmon and Digivolve into X4 onto the Starmons. And why I would do that is, yes, I'm missing out on its on-play effect. I am, however, gaining draw 2 from both Starmons and Pikmons, and at the end of the attack with X4, I am going to be able to use his end of attack effect. So I can just put the Starmon and the Pikmon under. Moving on to our final level 4 is Darulumon. Darulumon has his on play of if you have another Digimon or Tamer with Cross Heart in its traits in play, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn. Again, on deletion save. His inherited is very nice though. Your X5 is at 10,000 DP. That's not going to always be able to swing over some big bodies, but Darulumon's effect lets it, while this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, all of your opponent's security Digimon get minus 2,000, which is very useful. Moving on to X5. X5 is a blocker. He has security attack +1. He has material save 3. You want to have Sparrowmon under this, because you want that reboot. You want to be able to swing safely during your turn. He'll be suspended. At the end of your turn, he'll unsuspend due to reboot. So you still have your blocker going for you. Finally, because this is a competitive deck, we are running 3 copies of Death Xmon. Now, normally people are playing 2 copies. I feel it's safer to run 3. And I'm gonna explain why. At One Store Championship, I had been going undefeated until the very final round. I ended up getting 2nd place. The reasoning for this, and I don't know what my opponent's hand was going to be like, but I had 1 Death X on board. He had 5 Tamers because it was a mirror match. And he had 1 Shoutmon X4 on board. He was able to prevent its destruction the turn prior. So I needed the 2nd Death X. Because if I had gotten the 2nd Death X, I would have been able to play Death X for free, enabling me to de-digivolve his X4 and preventing him from really doing any further damage. What I would have done from there was I was going to then just play a Ballistamon in order to have a blocker. The problem, though, was I bottom decked that 2nd Death X. And because of that, I wasn't able to get the win. Now, for all I knew, my opponent's hand, he might have had the means to Digicross again, but I would have had a better shot of winning if I hadn't bottom decked the Death X. So that's why I bumped it up to 3. And I'm seeing it more consistently, and I like that. I like being able to see it more consistently, because it is very useful for board controlling your opponent. Moving on to our options, we are running 3 Crimson Blazes. Crimson Blaze deletes all of your opponent's Digimon with 6,000 DP or less. Your opponent can't play Digimon by effects until the end of their next turn. This is very useful, especially on the Jesmon matchup. If your opponent is a Jesmon player and they're building up their board, but they weren't able to get the Ganku X under their GX, you're golden. The reason you're golden is because that Ganku GX is going to give a plus 2,000 or plus 2 or 3,000 to all of the Digimon. And that's going to bring a majority of them past the 6,000 threshold. If they aren't able to get the Ganku, and they hit Crimson Blaze insecurity, that majority of the board is going to be wiped out. The only way they'll have a spare like Hawkmon in play is if they have the decoy Blanc. And I'll talk about Jesmon in a video in a day or so. But again, Crimson Blaze is very useful, especially because then until the end of their next turn, they won't be able to play any Sistermons using whenever they attack. Our second option card is 2 copies of Fireball. Fireball is very useful because it does take care of Psychmon, Solomon, and Chikurimon, who are 3,000 DPs, but also it gives us a draw power of a draw 2 if we aren't able to delete anything. Finally, we do have Sunrise Buster. We are running this at 1 due to the restrictions. Lets us play a yellow or red Tamer from our hand without paying its memory cost. And then one of our opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn for each yellow and or red tamer we have in play. Finally, onto our tamers. In the casual focus deck, there's a tamer that was not there, and that is Tai Kamiya. The reason Tai Kamiya is here is because it is very useful. It is a memory setter, and all of our red Digimon are going to get an extra security attack if they have 4 or more Digivolution cards. So that's going to be our X4 and our X5. The reason it wasn't in the casual deck is because Tai Kamiya is still very expensive. So I really, if you're not able to get the Tai Kamiyas, that's fine. We are running 1 copy of Kiriha, who acts as our secondary means of digicrossing from our tamers, as well as being a memory setter. 3 copies of Zenjiro, who will give us memory when we play a Crossheart card, as well as play a Ballistamon from our hand or from under a tamer without paying its cost on play. Taiki, which reveals top 4 cards, lets us grab a Crossheart card and add it to our hand and place 1 Digimon with Crossheart and its traits under this Taiki. And then, like Kiriha, he lets us Digicross from our tamers. And finally, Akari, who lets us play a Dorulumon from our hand or from under a tamer without paying its memory cost. And then when we play a Digimon with Crossheart and its traits, we can suspend her to draw 1. Now, a useful combo when it comes to Sunrise Buster is you use Sunrise to play Akari in order to play a Dorulu. The reason you do this is because Dorulu is going to get that extra 3000 DP hit in. So, if, say, you have 2 Taikis and you play the Akari, instead of just being a 9,000 decrease, it can be a 12,000. Or even a 15. There was a point where I was able to dish out 17,000 DP. And I chose to apply 15,000 to Jesmon and 3,000 onto a Solarmon. Moving on to cards you could tech in, there isn't a lot, sadly. We do have Spadamon from the recent set. It basically, on play, by placing this Digimon under one of your Digimon with Legend Arms or Crossheart in its trait as its bottom Digivolution card, de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. It has the Inherited that lets you reveal top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Legend Arms or Crossheart and its traits among them to your hand, and the rest go to the bottom. Shoutmon from BT5 is a card that will be more useful in BT11 when we get more Shoutmon support. And that's because he specifically searches out cards with Shoutmon in their name and cards with Blitz. We don't care about the Blitz, though. We just want the searching. Starmons is another card that can be useful when you're trying to do board control. And it's kind of it, really. Yes, it can be used for Digicrossing as well. But outside of those 2 things, it's not really needed. Now, option cards, Spiral Masquerade is nice. But if you want to use more board control, since we are running Asperomon, Death X, and Shoutmon X5, Ultimate Flare could be useful. Mainly because of its de-digivolving effect, can just really set your opponent back a bit. Now, like with Blue Flare, I will cover cards that we are going to get in the next couple sets. So all of these Digimon are Crossheart related, and they're from BT11. As you can see, we are getting a few. We have Ignitemon, which digivolves again from level 2s with Crossheart and its traits. When attacking, by deleting one of your other Digimon, delete one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon with a level less than or equal to the deleted Digimon's level. That's actually very interesting, because you could specifically target a level 5 or 6 Digimon that has already attacked and delete it in order to delete your opponent's Digimon with the equal level. So that's an interesting tech. It also has the inherited of all turns once per turn when you play a Digimon by an effect, gain 1 memory. So if it's under one of your Digicrosses, you can use that inherited for when you play Akari or Zenjiro, because then you'd be able to play Darulu or Ballista by an effect. And in the case of Zenjiro, that means you're getting 2 memory off of that instead of 1 from just Zenjiro. We are also going to be getting Shoutmon plus Star Sword. He is treated as both Shoutmon and Starmons. He has material save 1. His on-play effect is one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP for the turn. Then, if Digicrossing with 2 cards, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 2000 DP or less. So if your opponent has a Digimon with 4000 DP, you'd be able to kill it in one go. If your opponent has 2 Digimon, one with 2000 or less and one with, say, 6000, you can put one of those Digimon to 4000 and then kill the other. Like the name suggests, it is a Digicross of Shoutmon and Starmons. So, while it is a level 3, it does have a 5 play cost. So, you would have to Digicross both of them in order to get it to a 3 cost to play. It does Digivolve from level 3s, however, for 0. And level 2s for 1. So, it could be a good means of choking your opponent if you have it in hand and no other rookies. Because then you just Digivolve it onto your Pikmons and you choke your opponent to 1 if you're going first. Cutemon is a card that I feel is actually going to be very useful because of its on-play effect. It's not useful for anything else. It's on-play. Place 1 Digimon card with Crossheart and its traits from your trash at the bottom of one of your tamers. If you have a Digimon with Darulumon in its name or has Darulumon in its Digivolution cards in play, place up to 2 Digimon with Crosshearts in its traits from your trash at the bottom of one of your tamers instead. This is actually going to be very useful because you're going to be able to recycle the cards that were in your security and reuse them. So if you haven't been able to find certain cards that you need for Digicrossing and they were in your security, you'd be able to get them under your Digimon, your tamer, in order to use them. We are also going to be getting Shoutmon X3, which is going to essentially replace X4. It has material save 2. Start of your turn, by deleting this Digimon, gain 1 memory. On play, reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck. Add 2 cards with Crossheart or Blue Flare in their traits among them to your hand. Place the remaining at the bottom. There's not much else about it. However, it is a minus 6 cost, so you would be able to play it for 1. Because it is going to be a Shoutmon, Ballista, and Darulumon. Moving on to the new boss cards. We have Omni Shoutmon. We have Zig Greymon, Shoutmon DX, and X7. Now, Omni Shoutmon is going to Digivolve for 4 from Shoutmon, which is nice. We also are, when Digivolving, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP of 4000 or less. If this Digimon has Shoutmon in its Digivolution cards, delete 2 of your opponent's Digimon with DP of 4000 or less. On deletion, save. Inherited. While this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, this Digimon gets security attack plus 1. That is very useful. So, it also has a stipulation where it is treated as having Shoutmon. So, when you Digicross into X3, you would be able to use Omni Shoutmon, and that would give X3 security attack plus 1. Would you want to use that on a 6000 DP? Probably not, but the option is there. Z Greymon is similar. It Digivolves for 2 off of Metal Greymon, but we're not running Metal Greymon here, though, because we're not running Blue Flare. However, it's when Digivolving. Unsuspend this Digimon. Then, if a card with Blue Flare or Cross Heart in its traits is in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, gain 2 memory. On deletion, save. Then, place 1 blue Greymon and 1 male Birdramon from your trash under one of your tamers with General in its traits. I've mentioned this back in the Blue Flare video. This is effect is mainly for when you're playing a Blue Flare variant of this. Finally, we have its inherited. While this Digimon has Blue Flare in its trait, gain blocker, which is nice. We also have Shoutmon DX, which is Omni Shoutmon and Zeeg Greymon. Now, this is both Blue Flare and its Cross Heart. It digicrosses from Omni and Zeeg for a -3. So we'd be able to play it for 6 or 7. It has Material Save 2. On play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP of 8,000 or less. One of your opponent's Digimon may not attack until the opponent's next turn ends. End of attack. By deleting this Digimon, gain 1 memory. Finally, we have the real boss card for BT11. Shoutmon X7. It has Rush. It has Material Save 4. On play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to this Digimon's DP. All turns. For every 2 cards in this Digimon's Digivolution cards, this Digimon gets plus 1,000. Digicross -2. Omni Shoutmon, Zeeg Greymon, Ballistamon, Darulumon, Starmons, Sparrowmon. That's 6 cards. That is going to reduce its cost by 12. You're going to be playing this for 2 if you have everything. And because there are 6 cards, that means you get plus 3,000 DP. So this thing is going to be at 16,000. And due to its on-play effect, that means you can delete anything that is 6,000 DP or 16,000 DP or less. Imagine the power. Not to mention that 16,000 DP with Security Attack +1 reboot. And because it's also a Blue Flare blocker, just let's take a moment and just imagine the power. And the best part about this, though, the best part is just also that 16,000 is minus 2,000 in security, and it has piercing. It's just like, what the heck? However, this does prompt a question, though, of how you're going to play Shoutmon in BT11. Because in my researching, I have found that you're either going to be playing a Shoutmon that revolves around X5, or you're going to be playing Crossheart that revolves around X7. You can't have both. And I'll talk about why when I cover this deck in BT11. But finally, our last card for BT11 is going to be Taiki Kiriha Nene. At the start of your main phase, by placing one Digimon with Blue Flare or Crossheart in its traits under this tamer, gain 1 memory and draw 1. That's really good for draw power. And it also lets us Digicross from our tamers. That is it for this deck analysis. Is Crossheart going to be good in EX3? I doubt it. It might be able to get some momentum if you're focusing primarily on the X5. Otherwise, I doubt it. It used to be tier 1. It's probably going to go to tier 3 just because Sunrise Buster and X4 have just been neutered. And once we get to BT11, I see people that want to play Crossheart are more likely going to play the X7 variant than an X5 variant. But I hope you enjoyed this deck analysis. Leave a like, comment, tell me what you think about this. How do you feel about Crossheart getting neutered like this, not even a week after the Western release. I will see you all in the next video. Peace.